for all of human history, entertainment has kind of been, the power has been held by a very small group of people.
Yep.
So now we're trying to rethink this, and I know you're all about yield. I know you're all about DAO. We're bringing all of these concepts into a product that is purpose built to be, used by people in the arts. And we really believe there's something there because look, think about all of that capital that is being captured by this very small group of people. Now think about what if that capital is actually put back into the system and the people actually doing the work, doing the art, making this kind of stuff, they have the power to decide where this funding goes.
Yep.
It's amazing to me. So that's all I'm going to say.
Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, the episode where we go around the ecosystem and talk to the builders. And this time we have with us Brian from Rhizome, needs no other introduction. Brian, with us as well is Arun. And Arun, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you on.
Thanks so much, Fez. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Now, before Arun, I start quizzing you on who you are and why you're on the show, let me throw it out to Brian. Brian, do you want to, say hello and also then introduce everyone to Coda and what's been happening there, what the project essentially is at the moment, so that if we have new listeners and stuff, they can get up to speed.
Yeah, sure. So, hey, what's up? So Coda is something that we actually talked about on a few episodes ago. So if you listen back, I think in February or March, we did an episode on Eye on Icon talking about Coda that was with Drew and Trevor, the two team members from Tempo. So initially, it was a project that was targeting the music copyright space and thinking about how to facilitate and kind of improve the copyright model with blockchain tokens rather than paper contracts. So some improvements that you can immediately think of is that when the kind of split of the ownership is tokenized, you can kind of use that to interact with other blockchain stuff in a way that is not possible with a paper contract. So we kind of ran with that for a while. At some point, the Drew and Trevor from Tempo, they kind of reeled me in a bit. I got kind of caught in the vacuum of trying to build stuff. It's like, hey, this is a very specific idea. It's very ambitious. It's tackling something like copyright, which is just a huge thing to tackle. Maybe we should still listen to our hearts about like what we're actually trying to do, and that's really to give more power to people who create art, but do so in a way that's not so, like we don't have to tackle the copyright first. We can do something else first. So that kind of led me into the current project, which has evolved quite a bit since we last talked in March, and it's no longer really just focused on music and copyright. We're instead thinking about how to onboard people in the arts onto the blockchain, and I'll go through like a few broad concepts. I think we'll probably touch on a few more specific things later on in the podcast, but the three biggest things I would say that we're focusing on is proving the ownership splits of your projects. So whether that's like a show or that's like a song, a painting, a collaboration with different people. We try to get that into a format that can be processed by a blockchain, and we can do a lot of cool stuff after that. And the second thing that we're focusing on is the transfer of value without having to trust parties like Venmo, PayPal, bank accounts. Each step that you take when you're working with people in the arts now, it's like one person will kind of get the funds, and then they might split it themselves and then send it off via something like PayPal. Each step has quite an amount of fees built in, so all of that will add up, and before you know it, you're down like 5 or 10%. And we're talking about like the transfer of all of this capital as well. And we'll dig more into that later on. And then the third thing is we're thinking about how to make Coda into a platform that is actually owned by the people. So instead of having these like structures where the majority of the capital is actually owned by big companies. Uh, as you know, in the arts, a lot of it is just owned by these huge companies. And the share that the people who are actually doing the art, the share that they get, is quite small. So we're thinking about how to make that a bit more fair. So those are the three things that we're really focused on now. We'll get into more specifics later on in the podcast, but yeah, so that's kind of an overview of what we're working on at the moment.
Cool. Okay. So, Arun, I'm going to throw it over to you now, and I'm keen to hear, well, who you are, background, how you came into crypto, and I guess your journey into Coda. But before I go there, right at the end, I'm going to come back to both of you, and I'm going to ask you and for an elevator pitch about Coda. Okay, so we'll break everything down through the episode, but at the end, I want something where I can just walk up to a person and go, kind of brag and say, "Yeah, I'm working on Coda, and this is what it's about," and that should give me a very good idea of what the project is and how I guess it's going to aid or revolutionize, should I say, the industry, the arts industry, music, art, everything. I get what you're trying to do here, Brian. So, but I'm really keen to get that kind of pitch there to solidify in all our listeners' minds exactly how big this is going to be, not just for Icon, but for the industry itself. But let me rein it in again. Arun, here's your moment.
Yes,
Introduce yourself. Talk to us.
Hi, Afez. Hi, everyone. My name is Arun Gavada. I am a US-born, Hong Kong-raised Indian guy. Kind of all over the place there, but it's made me who I am today. My family's from South India, and all these different aspects of my life have made me into the stand-up guy that you're talking to today. My undergraduate studies were in business. I was at Boston University, where I concentrated in operations and technology management. After that, I worked around the world. I started in internal consulting at IBM. And then I moved into a corporate expansion role at a urban design and architecture company based in Hong Kong, where I opened offices and drove the kind of go-to-market strategy through expansion into different markets like the US and like India. After that, I had the opportunity to join a startup, a real estate development startup that was focused on creating a co-living offering for young professionals in Asia. And that business ended up selling for 183, or being acquired for 183 million dollars just after 1 year of working there, which is kind of
Wow.
probably a huge point on the CV. And that kind of led me to wanting to start my own business. Now, on the undercurrent, or in the moonlight of all of this, I started performing stand-up comedy. In terms of the arts, I've been a singer from a very young age. When I lived in India for a few years, I had an opportunity to open a stand-up comedy club, and that's kind of where my passion for developing a platform, and in that case, it was a physical platform, a stage for artists, in this case comedians, to be able to find their spark. So that's like going from an audience member to maybe trying an open mic, and then actually, getting your first laughs, and then moving on to, um, you know, performing your first showcase, to, being super successful. And that kind of started that itch, I should say. It's really fulfilling to see people try something new and discover that that's kind of what they were meant to do, and help them along that journey. Now, I never connected my work life with my play life, I should say. But after working for a startup that, had huge success, that's when I was like, okay, maybe it's time to start a business. If if I do start a business, how does that work? What kind of industry will it be in? And that's when I realized that, look, maybe there's a world where I take my education, I take passions in entertainment, and I bring that together in some form of startup business. And that led me to New York, where, while thinking about what business to start, going through a few iterations, I had the opportunity to work at the New York Tourism Bureau, where I worked on a variety of campaigns for entertainment businesses like Madison Square Garden, a bunch of Broadway theaters and shows, comedy clubs, you name it, and kind of solidified my footing here in New York. After being out of the country for so long, and yeah, that kind of like led me to understand what problems were in the space, or what potential opportunities were there. Cut to COVID, and you know, I had the opportunity to apply to a graduate program here at NYU, which I'm currently in right now, just to sharpen that skill set, as I dive into to to new projects. And what my concentration is, I'm actually at the Gallatin School of Individualized Study, and that concentration is kind of like dependent on the student. You kind of get to design your own program, which is super awesome. And my program touches on real estate development, on technology, and acoustics, all within the entertainment space. So that's the nutshell of my life, and I'm happy to answer any more questions that you have.
Well, damn. First, let's just take a moment to take all of that in. Brian, you told me a friend. All your friends are just next level, next caliber.
Well,
I
I only tell you about those friends.
love it. Oh, look, that's great, Arun. Okay, so then, Arun, when I think about it, what are you hoping to bring to contribute to Icon? And I'll later on focus on what you're going to do for Coda. But what's your exposure to Icon? I'm guessing Brian's been in your ear constantly about it.
Well, yes, Brian's been very
I've been chilling hard.
the the instrumental force in getting me to understand, the nature of blockchain, and what Icon brings to the table, and talking about how supportive Icon is, and the community is, for towards new projects, and functionalities that people build on top of the network. So, firstly, I think the focus of Icon is really awesome as a platform, as a community, as a blockchain, um, because, sorry, as a network, um, because you don't see that very often, where there are things like a contribution proposal system. So once I was walked through that, I it was kind of like, okay, this is the right um, ecosystem in which, or on which, to build something like this. So I hope that anything that we build with Coda just increases the value of Icon, to the point where more of these projects can be invested in, can be can be thought of, can be worked on.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I hope that answers your question. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I see, at least.
No, no, that's great. Look, I think even Brian's intro, and then when you talked about your experience and skill set, it's kind of you start to kind of mesh the two together and go, yes, Coda has evolved into a bigger vision, and all of a sudden, you've described your career and you've kind of touched on all those aspects, which is brilliant. So. I guess that I'm going to come back to Brian now. Brian, how? Because Arun is recently joined the team. How did this come about?
Yeah, so me and Arun, we kind of go back all the way back to college years. We actually met through a mutual friend and we did a recording session in Hong Kong. That's how we ended up meeting. And we kept in touch after that. And back in maybe 2018 or 2019, we were actually talking about starting a business that was kind of mixing live entertainment, the real estate side of things. That didn't really pan out for a few reasons, including the pandemic. You know, who's going to go out and go to shows in the middle of a pandemic? So, kind of put that on the back burner or the shelf. And we recently caught up again, and Arun was looking at starting a business in ticketing. And this is something that I've also been sort of thinking about. Uh, to bring a ticketing startup onto the blockchain, but it wasn't really my core focus because my background is just not in that kind of thing as at all. So it was more like, okay, this is an idea that's on the back of my mind, but I have some other things to focus on now, so I'll get to it later. But we caught up maybe, like a month or two ago, and he told me about the idea, and I was like, wait, we have to do this on blockchain because because there's just so many advantages to doing this on blockchain. Like when you're thinking about like tickets, you're trying to uh, kind of prevent people from scalping, trying to jack up the price 3 or 4 times. You're thinking about how to reduce like fraud. You're thinking about how to reduce the ticket fees. So all these things are things that blockchain can help with. So we got talking, and at first he was kind of like new to blockchain, and he didn't really like uh say yes to me yet. But we kept on going back and forth for like a month, and then I think at some point he was just like, bam, I got it now. Like this totally makes sense.
I said,
Um,
yes, Brian, I'll go to prom.
right,
Exactly. As long as
exactly.
you stop hounding me, it's a yes. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the other side of this is also I was trying to recruit him, because in Icon we have a lot of different people who can do different things. We have people from banking, we have devs, we have people who are good with like graphics and that kind of stuff. But I think what we're missing maybe is like business people,
Mm.
like hardcore, like this is what they do. This is what they've done in the past, and now they want to bring it to Icon. So I was very much trying to like recruit, recruit, and just because like I know what he can do. So how do we get him onto Icon? First, as someone who's just working on a product, but maybe in the future, uh, depending on how things go, maybe he can also assist some other teams who are working on stuff with stuff on the business side. So that was like the other side of things, just it was the good timing where we both wanted to do something in ticketing. And the other side is I just want to recruit more talent that we don't have.
Fair enough. Yep. Great. Okay. So then, Aaron, what do you see a role? How do you see a role in Coda? What is your
So
role?
my skills, over my past 10-year career, across the types of verticals and industries that I mentioned earlier, if I boil it down, it's creating brands, going to market, developing new products, and then building, high functioning teams and managing them. I'm also, very well versed in working with corporate partners on a variety of initiatives, brand partners, and I hope to bring all those skills to this project, with Coda. And I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity to grow, but in terms of the start, that's probably where my functional focus will lie at first. And then again, I guess to build on top of that, between um, Brian, Drew, and Trevor's network of people in the music space and my network of comedians and people in the comedy space, we'll have a solid community base, in order to get feedback on what we're building, and be able to get users much easier than if we hadn't.
Yep. Okay, that's it's interesting just thinking about this, because I guess Coda is in a building stage that is finding its feet in terms of evolving. And Brian, you're probably going to talk to that a bit more. But what I like that I'm hearing is it's not just everyone's got their heads down trying to build something without kind of engaging the end user or even getting out there to see the interest, and hopefully as part of that the build evolves to what's needed out there in the market. And Arun, by you coming on board with your skill set, this is exactly what we're establishing very early on, rather than getting a bit too late and realizing, oh, we built all this, it may not be practical in the real world. From a product perspective. So now, if I've got that wrong, correct me. But this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I love to see as well, because there are many projects that get to the end and kind of go, oh God, we missed the mark. So this is great to hear. Good stuff.
That's that's I feel like that's exactly how we'd see it. Just adding one thing on, in terms of the real estate. So the real estate component of my background, I love to manifest something physically as well. And Brian, if you want to chime in, please feel free. But Brian and I, Drew, Trevor, we all feel like this project with Coda is a good opportunity. Sorry, I was stumbling on my words. It's early here in New York. This project is a good opportunity to kind of bridge that IRL component into the blockchain in the entertainment world. And what I mean by that is being able to maybe even have host live shows that are, and then run that ticketing on whatever platform or whatever functionality that we create with Coda. So there's a real estate component to the function that I would bring to the table as well. But I guess we can talk about that a little bit later on in the call.
Yeah.
Speaking of bridge, that's a really good segue.
Yes, go.
Okay.
Take it away.
All right, so I'll get into the more specifics of what we're actually trying to do now. So what I mean by speaking of bridge is, as people in the community probably know, Bridge recently came out. It's a passwordless authentication system that basically allows you to log into a DApp without having to create a wallet, without having to manage your keys. You just log in with an email address, as you would on Facebook. And this is really, really important, because the number one focus of Coda is to design for the mainstream. Like if you think about it, the majority of dApps now, they assume kind of a certain level of technical know-how just in order to use a dApp. You have to download an extension, you have to create a wallet, you need to sign up for a crypto exchange, you have to transfer your cash to the exchange, purchase a specific crypto, you have to transfer that crypto to your wallet, and then you can start to use the dApp, right? But then after that, each time you click a button, you have to kind of sign it and then click it again. It's too much. Like right after step one, 99% of people are not going to use it. So we are very insistent on designing this for the mainstream. So we're looking at solutions like Bridge, and also the kind of component that bridge is built on, in order to handle the kind of identity part of the app. So we're very insistent on combining the best parts of like the centralized side of things and also like the smart contract, the blockchain side of things. We want to find a good compromise there that allows us to maintain the best possible experience for the people who use the app. So like that's like the first thing that I want to get out of the way. It's like I don't think any other app on Icon has gone this route yet. For example, if you look at Balanced, I guess Ohm is like the first example that's going to use Bridge, but that's not released yet. And then you also have Craft, which does require you to operate a wallet. So Coda, I would say, is going to be the first app that is trying to abstract away all of the complexity of blockchain. Like, even if you look at Ohm, it's still it's still clearly a blockchain thing. You have tokens, you have all of these terms that are kind of suggest that this is a blockchain app. We're trying to do as little of that as possible with our app. So that goes as far as to thinking like we're gonna have to think of a cool marketing term to replace something like staking. So going as far as to like rebrand those terms that we're so used to in crypto into a way that is more accessible for the mainstream. So that's like the kind of thesis that we're trying to keep in the back of our mind when we're building out the app. In terms of the actual core functionality, like what we're trying to do is trying to take things in real life, different things that you would expect to see in entertainment, and kind of taking all of those pieces and figuring out how to tokenize them onto a blockchain in a way where all of these pieces can talk to each other in an efficient way that makes sense. Like we're not trying to force the blockchain onto something that doesn't need it. So I'm not going to get like too much into the specifics because we're really working on something that I feel like no one has even thought of or looked at for some reason. But for some reason, it sounds very obvious. So thinking about how to tokenize tickets, thinking about how to tokenize people's projects, thinking about how to tokenize different groups of people, thinking about how to tokenize venues, and that would be online and offline, and thinking about how to tokenize an event. And by tokenize, I don't specifically mean like it has to be a token. I just mean it will be in some format that can be understood and parsed by a blockchain. So once you have all these sorts of different pieces of the real world that is tokenized onto the blockchain, you can start to do some really cool stuff when you start to link them together. So in this case, we're also building a smart contract for payments. So payments in entertainment right now is kind of an area that is just rife with, I don't want to say corruption, but it sort of is, where specifically in ticketing, sometimes you have companies that charge immense percentage of fees. And when you actually look at the breakdown, a lot of the fees is just like, where is this even going? It ends up it's just going to the actual companies themselves. And the actual artist who is on stage, who is performing the actual work that people are coming to see, they get a relatively like small percentage of it. And when I say that, I mean like I feel like they don't get enough of it. And in entertainment, as with anything in life, it all comes down to the money, you know. So in this case, we feel like the economics of live entertainment are skewed towards these huge companies, huge companies that are, I'm not sure if they're publicly traded, but that scale of company. And are thinking about, can we actually rethink how this money is split across the various, I guess, participants? So we're looking at ways to, specifically with ticketing, we're looking at ways to leverage DeFi, and basically to replace, for example, when you buy a ticket, the company, they might hold that money for a certain amount of time. It's like thinking about, okay, what if that money was actually being held in a smart contract somewhere? What can we do with it? Uh, what can we do potentially with some yield that is earned on that? I think what we're doing can kind of change the whole creator ecosystem in a way where uh, the vision that I see is that there will be kind of two ecosystems of people in the arts, where one of them, they might still be tied to this old system that's like too many fees. It's so slow. The contracts are done on paper. It's not something that you can really uh, do a lot of stuff to in terms of make things faster. And then there's going to be an alternate system that runs on our product that has stuff like contracts. It's tokenized. It can be quickly integrated into all sorts of blockchain kind of things. And payments is handled by a smart contract. You no longer have to, hey, what's your Venmo? Hey, what's your PayPal? All of that is somehow known already. And we have actually a functional smart contract that already does this. And so it's not just like an idea. We actually have some code right now. Um, and just thinking about like a new kind of system where uh, people are able to control more of their work. They're able to prove their work. They're able to actually, and the coolest thing is the Coda token is going to allow them to actually own a part of this ecosystem. So if you think about it now, the entertainment kind of sector, it's comprised of so many different things. It's comprised of ticketing, film, Broadway, I can name like a million different things. All of these things have one thing in common. They exist to entertain people. They're all part of the same sector. So now imagine if you could somehow like own like a stock that represents that sector. That's what I envision the Coda token and the Coda platform to be in the future. We want to see an ecosystem where there is a lot of funds flowing through our smart contracts and the community owns this. That's kind of what I see. That's what we're working on.
Cool. Okay. So I think I'll come back to my earlier question, the elevator pitch. But as you have broken this down, I feel I may have to. There's many quadrants to this, sections to this, to the elevator pitch, because it's not just, I guess, for the artist. It's for it varies. So if I were to ask both of you, and I don't know who wants to take this, let's put it simple. Okay, because remember, the goal as well, you've told me so far, is you want to kind of remove that blockchain lingo. So we all know, yep, it's going to be on the blockchain. So if you were pitching it to another musician or a comedian, how would you introduce your product and what would it do for them if they were to bring themselves or utilize Coda?
Yeah, I think I can quickly go first, and then I want to see what Arun says. But for me, we're trying to build essentially a suite of tools that allows creators to do what previously they had to rely on these large companies for. And the pitch is really simple when I talk to someone in the arts. Okay, like just last week or something, I think I was talking to Drew or Trevor, and he was telling me they put on a show and they didn't end up making any money because of all the fees. So when I'm talking to an artist, I say, okay, here's a suite of tools that allows you to do what you have to do in order to put on this show. You need to have a payment system. You need to have a ticketing system. You need to have all of these things. And we're being very specific about the tools we build. It's very like built for a specific purpose. And these tools will make you money. You're not going to like do your show and after that, oh, you're actually in the red. So that's kind of like the surface layer thing that I really think will draw a lot of people in, because the situation is quite dire at the moment where when we're talking about the people in the arts, uh, it's very hard for them to have tools and have the means in order to actually make money afterwards. So there's that side of things. And then the more I think grandiose concept is like, okay, name a huge company in the arts. What if you owned a part of that? That's kind of the thing that I see.
Cool.
And I think Arun can elaborate more on his perspective.
Arun,
Thanks,
go
Brian.
pitch me.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, just honestly, I see it the exact same way. And there's another layer to this. After Brian and I got to talking, of um, you know, rethinking the ecosystem, creating more opportunities for people in the arts and entertainment. That, in our view, doesn't stop at people that are currently working today as artists and entertainers, but it should also go further than that to the next generation and the next generation. So if we're able to as Brian was talking about, look at the a DeFi component to this business, or if we're able to eliminate some of the traditional overhead that is there and create some savings that we can then not only pass on to the artist, but also pass on to the consumer by making shows more affordable, but also being able to contribute some financial amount to artists via a grant, or charitable organizations that focus on creating arts opportunities for underserved communities, whether that's recycling instruments, whether that's paying for art programs, music programs, or if it's an towards an artist grant fund where an artist as that's a part of the community, the Coda community, can apply for funding to complete their EP if they're a musician, or help with their travel costs when they're about to go on tour or something like that. We feel like there's a mission driven element that consumers will relate to, especially consumers in our age, and the Gen Z consumers as well. It's something that we're really passionate about, and we hope to find a home for that focus in Coda as well. I hope that was clear, but happy to answer more questions about it, Fez.
No, look, that is very clear. So I'm gonna do my interpretation of everything I've taken in today, and for everyone listening, yes, yeah, I'm on Team Rhizome, etc. But I actually haven't been very close to this project at all, and I'm always telling Brian in the background, I need to find time. I want to get my head across this project. I just want to understand the intricacies of it, and so I even came into this podcast, this show, quite blind. However, after listening to everything, here's what I'm taking away from it. You want to create an application for the artists, for the end users, and everyone involved that can use it will gain something from it. So this is what DeFi has essentially done versus traditional finance, where traditional finance, everyone took a piece of the pie, and the end user, who is us, me, for example, got no interest in my savings account. If I use DeFi, it streamlined the process completely and made my money actually give me great returns. So when you look at it from the music industry, you're trying to capture an end-to-end process from the artists that are starting to, how they organize their events, of their sales. In the background, because it's blockchain, when all this money is flowing through, it will leverage on the DeFi ecosystem to earn interest. Now, because of the platform being on the blockchain, it's going to be governed, and we can I guess, vote for when this interest generates, when the money generates some kind of interest, it gets put away in a fund that can help towards some of the stuff that you talked about, Arun, with the equipment and starting out new musicians, comedians in any field in the art fields, etc. You're kind of trying to capture all of that and intertwine it all and remove all the people who are kind of gouging currently the money that comes into the industry and lines their own pockets. This will just streamline it all and basically encourage people to do what they're great at and remove all the complexity. Have I kind of given a very wide net across it?
Exactly. Like it's a grand experiment, right?
Yeah.
For all of human history, entertainment has kind of been the power has been held by a very small group of people.
Yep.
So now we're trying to rethink this, and I know you're all about yield. I know you're all about DAO. We're bringing all of these concepts into a product that is purpose built to be used by people in the arts. And we really believe there's something there because like think about all of that capital that is being captured by this very small group of people. Now think about what if that capital is actually put back into the system and the people actually doing the work, doing the art, making this kind of stuff, they have the power to decide where this funding goes.
Yep.
It's amazing to me. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yep. Look, it's clicked for me as well. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Arun, what about you? Any closing? I guess if there's let's close it out. Any closing words from you, Arun?
I'm honestly, I just want to say thank you, Fez, for having me on this podcast. I know it's not Brian's first one. Brian, it's been fun catching up and looking forward to working on this grand experiment and seeing to what degree we can build tools that get us closer to this vision, both online and seeing how we can maybe host a comedy show or virtually for the community or a music show, and then hopefully seeing how that plays out in the real world as well. So really exciting, and I'm really happy to have had the time to speak to both of you today.
Look, Arun, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I enjoyed hearing your where you've come from, your story. It was fantastic, and I'm in a little bit of awe. Again, I even remember when Drew came on the show, and then I actually straight after Drew had been on the show, I started YouTubing and seeing how talented he was. I was like, my God, Brian, you really do have a great circle of people, Brian, what about you? Any closing words?
Any closing words? So, yeah, we have a CPS proposal now. For the past few months, we've only been requesting enough to develop smart contracts. At this time, we've got a couple of smart contracts built. I think the last time I checked, we have about 2 or 3 or maybe 4 that are either finished or in the process of being finished. So we're at a point now where we feel the smart contract development has gotten to a point where it's like, okay, this is going to work, at least from a technical perspective. So now let's go on to the next step. So we're requesting a supplemental round of funding that's going to go towards me, because right up until now I've not been paid for any of my work that I've done on this. Now I feel like, okay, we have something here. We have these contracts. It's demonstrated that the concept is real. It works. So I'm ready to jump on this project on more of a full-time basis. This is what I want to spend my life working on, and I need to get paid for that because I have a family to feed. And same thing with Arun. We're going to bring him on board full-time. Drew and Trevor are going to try to move to part-time positions. Until now, they've also been unpaid, focusing on artist research, forming relationships with strategic people in the arts, and also Trevor is going to be working on market research and also additional research for the various aspects of the platform we're trying to build. And he's really good at research, so that's that. And we're gonna on the development side, we want to bring on a back end developer to start working on an API, which we intend to market towards businesses for a B2B kind of thing. Like if you want ticketing, here we have an API to do that. You can work with it. And we also see that API as the backend for our front end app. So that's what we have right now. We're not asking for more money for nothing. Without this additional funding, we really will have a difficult time to move forward because people really do need to get paid for their work, even if it's in crypto. So if there are any P reps out there who are listening to this, I encourage you to vote for yes. And if you would like to inspect our code, as I've highlighted in our proposal, please reach out to me. We're not open sourcing anything yet because, it's kind of a competitive thing. We don't want people to read to know what we're doing exactly, at least very specifically. So if you do want to inspect our code, you feel like that's going to affect how you vote, please go ahead and reach out to me. I can schedule a call with you. We can go through the code. I can talk to you about what the code does. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to end with.
No, that's great. Thanks, Brian. Look, my 2 cents here, being a little bit impartial, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of this. We need to have teams starting to think, well, building full time is what I'm trying to get at. That we've got everyone. When I look at it, there's certain teams or aspects that we see coming through CPS, and they cannot jump on full time because everyone doesn't want their CPS proposal to get too bloated in case it doesn't get approved from a funding perspective. But I think with Icon 2.0 coming, and as I keep calling out, inflation being rerouted via entirely apart from just the foundation, we're going to see a decent amount go into CPS, and it is great to hear that it's going from the side hustle to really prioritizing, and Brian even calling out, you want to be on it full time, and to do that, there needs to be sufficient funding to pay for it. So very valid call out, and I expect to see more of this happening now. It should already be happening, so it's great to see, and I expect more of it. Yeah, exactly. So thank you, and look, thanks guys for coming on. I really feel today has helped, definitely me, paint this real good wide picture. It's a wide picture I'm envisioning, Coda. I've got a real wide picture for it, but it's actually helped paint that in, and I really appreciate you all taking the time. Arun, it was great to chat. I know we'll have you on the show again. I'll probably be picking your brains, hounding you, as I like to refer to, post this chat, but I'm really, really glad you were able to join and introduce yourself.
Likewise, really glad to meet you. I'm happy. I'm always here. Please feel free to reach out. Happy to jump on.
I will. Excellent. Brian, as usual, I would thank you, but you'll be on the next show anyway.
Whatever. All right. Thanks, Faz.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Faz. See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.